does he have to do with this?
Let anything, you know what I'm talking about. Let anything. Nah, I don't have to say it right now. Don't worry about it. I don't got to say it up here. Let anything happen. And I'm going to show you and him. Bet.
In shape, 145.
Yeah.
In shape. You know what I mean? So this is different from a Crawford coming up to 168, but we know his walk around weight is probably 170, 180.
The fight that I couldn't believe, that was too insane and honestly just baffling to think would be a real fight in 2025, reminds you that combat sports are the craziest sports on the planet.
And chaos erupted at the press conference for the Gervonta Davis versus Jake Paul showdown, turning what should have been a simple hype event into a full-blown storm. Davis lost his cool when pressed about why he chose Paul over higher-ranked opponents. Meanwhile, Paul seized the moment, digging into Davis's personal controversies and mocking his past, fueling the fire until moderators had no choice but to step in.
And truly, when people run back this press conference, all the shit talk, all the fun, they're going to be like, wow, this kid really is doing something monumental in the sport, and he's actually an insane boxer. And I'm going to show that this guy who's been doing it his whole life has been doing it wrong his whole life.
What'd you say, Tank?
He said he going to outbox me. Whoop-de-doo.
The one thing, when you have a fight of this magnitude, especially with Jake, because his appeal has been global. For you, Tank, do you think this is one of those fights where now all of a sudden you can show your boxing skills on a global scale to maybe people who weren't interested in boxing? All of a sudden they say, well, who is this guy?
Yeah, it's actually like, you know, now that I'm looking at it now, it's just like, I don't know.
From the very start, the exchange was anything but friendly. Paul, standing tall at 6 feet 1 inch, towered over Davis's 5 feet 5 inches frame, a striking image that perfectly captured the size gap fueling all the pre-fight buzz. Paul turned that difference into his favorite talking point, bragging he'd use his reach and size to keep Davis at a distance. But Davis, the reigning lightweight champion who's made a career out of beating bigger men, fired back with quiet confidence, promising his blistering speed would erase any advantage. Once the fight heated up point, one of the biggest sparks in this build-up has been that size mismatch. Fans and major media voices alike have called the fight unfair, some even dismissing it as a circus act before the first bell rings. After all, Davis, an undefeated lightweight champ, is stepping in with the YouTuber-turned-boxer who's used to fighting at much heavier weights. And with the bout labeled an exhibition instead of an official title fight, the debate over its legitimacy has only grown louder. It's no secret that Paul lives for drama and chaos. The entire press conference felt engineered to explode online, from the clown antics to the shoving matches to the digs about legal troubles. Every moment seemed designed to blur the line between sports and spectacle, turning what should have been a boxing presser into something straight out of a reality show meltdown. Reporters later described the event as pure noise, all flash and fury, heavy on entertainment but light on meaning.
Right. But yeah, that was that. This time, Jake Paul is to take on Tank Davis. Tank Davis, he was recently in the news for being arrested for a domestic violence incident involving one of his kids' mother. He was alleged to have slapped her about the place. The charges were later dropped, to be fair to him. But yeah, that was when he was last in the news. I mean, what is interesting is just a couple of months ago, Tank Davis was saying openly that he'd lost his passion for boxing and that he wanted time away from the sport. There was speculation that he might even retire as he was experiencing extreme mental fatigue from boxing, depression, and there were mental health concerns over him. However, I guess the opportunity to earn a truck full of money, fighting a completely worthless exhibition fight against Jake Paul was enough to make him change his mind about boxing. Funny that, isn't it? But you know what? I'm not even going to waste your time or mine critiquing this utter nonsense. Suffice to say that this so-called fight we're talking about is an exhibition, and it pits Jake Paul, who is a cruiserweight, by the way, weighs in excess of 200 pounds, and Tank Davis, who is, he was the WBA lightweight champion, who weighs in at about 135 pounds when he fights. So that's a disparity of some 65 pounds. In old money, that's about 4.5 stone. There's also a significant difference in height. Jake Paul is roughly, 6'1", 2. Gervonta Davis is 5'5" at best. So, there's a height disparity there of some 8 inches. And once again, this is Jake Paul showing total disrespect to boxing, in my opinion. Once again, continued to pimp out the sport for his own financial ends. And worse still, the powers that be in boxing allowing him to get away with it and facilitating this utter bullshit. And meanwhile, what's even worse about this is that the WBA lightweight title that Tank Davis should be defending against Lamont Roach in a rematch.
Keith Thurman pointed out an interesting irony, how Gervonta Davis's harshest critics might actually be fueling his rise. And he's right. The very people who tear apart Davis's performances are the same ones who never skip a single fight. They say his skills don't measure up, yet they can't look away when he's in the ring. Thurman explains that even their negativity gives Davis more spotlight, more buzz, more staying power. Their outrage becomes promotion. Their insults become free marketing. In the end, the harder they try to tear him down, the higher his name climbs.
That Jake will kind of bounce in between doing these entertainment fights and then, trying to push toward his goal of ingraining himself in the sport of boxing, and kind of does both of them. So it's kind of a weird place to be, because he wants the respect of the boxing fans and the boxing hierarchy and hardcore boxing people, but at the same time, he'll gain some of that and then lose some of it. It's like a seesaw of his fights. Like one fight, like, okay, that's a real fight, or that's a real Julio Cesar Chavez, real fighter, maybe past his prime, whatever, but Jake goes and wins that fight pretty easily, and then gets a lot of respect, gets a lot of the boxing hardcore love. And you have these talks about him fighting Anthony Joshua, and that was going to get even more respect. More people were like, that's fucking crazy. What are you doing? Myself included. That seemed like a massive risk, but a lot of people were like, okay, fair play. Anthony Joshua, that's a real heavyweight. Jake wants to fight him. He's a psycho, but fair play. And then you announce this one, and it's like, well, that's the same thing people have been saying about Jake for years, so it's a weird spot to be in for him for sure. But I talked about this not being the first choice, and I don't think it was, because Coppinger reports next that talks for Jake Paul to face Anthony Joshua collapsed over network issues. Now, we had all heard the talks, and they were pretty public, from Eddie Hearn, from Jake. Nakisa Badarian, Jake's manager, was over in the UK on, I think, Sky Sports, talking about the fight and saying how it was a real...
Stephen A. Smith didn't hold back his disapproval over the wave of mismatched exhibition bouts, including Paul versus Mike Tyson. He said Paul's comments came from genuine frustration, even disgust, as he bluntly called out the unfairness of these matchups. Smith stressed that if Paul wants to be taken seriously, he needs to face real fighters, not aging legends or retired athletes. Still, he gave Paul credit for his unmatched promotional flair and the spotlight he brings to boxing. But Smith was firm. True respect only comes from battling legitimate, current contenders. After the controversial majority draw between Davis and Lamont Roach back in March, Smith weighed in again. He highlighted Davis's stellar record and brushed off any talk of criticism. To him, Davis showed what being a champion truly means, staying composed when everything's on the line. And when Davis immediately agreed to a rematch, Smith saw it as the move of a man sure of himself, ready to prove once again why he belongs among the best.
Happy with Tank. First off, don't watch Tank. Don't do it. You know what I'm saying? You support it, then what you doing? You can't not support and support at the same time, right? So if you're a boxing purist, then this fight with Roach is really more for you. It's going to be more up your alley, you know? If you just like all entertainment, all fights, all hypes, all everything, then you're going to want to tune in to the Tank and Paul show there, you know, because that's all for entertainment. What is it? For entertainment purposes only, right? It's just say like somewhere in the small print of the promotion. For entertainment, don't do this at home, kids. You know, so fine.
Disclaimer.
Yeah, disclaimer. For entertainment purposes only, you know. So it's money making purposes only.
He even ranked Davis among the top 3 boxers in the world, praising his unmatched power, precision, and knockout flair. Tank is a world champion, a proven force in the sport, while Jake Paul remains a YouTuber-turned-boxer, a newcomer who rose from entertainment, not boxing tradition. For a fighter as accomplished as Davis to face someone with so little experience, Smith argued, risks tarnishing his legacy. In his view, this matchup sits far beneath Tank's caliber.
Is a
And that's exactly why he said Davis should feel ashamed for taking it.
I don't give a damn if it's a light heavyweight. Better BF, Bivol, a super middleweight, Canelo, Mexican Monster, David Benavidez, somebody that actually has a reputation. The time has come for Jake Paul to step into the ring with a cat who actually boxes for a living and give us that fight. I appreciate the fact of him promoting. I appreciate him having the cachet as a former YouTuber turned boxer. I like Jake Paul. I respect Jake Paul. I'm just saying, because I like him and because I respect him, I want to see him in the ring. And I don't want to hear, I know his numbers are better, but then he's going to say, I don't need Canelo. Canelo needs me. Well, wait a minute. It ain't just a...
Raleigh Romero views the Paul versus Davis fight on Netflix as a massive attraction, especially for younger American audiences. He points out that while Canelo versus Crawford will deeply connect with Mexican and Latin American fans, the Paul Davis exhibition will dominate attention in the U.S., particularly among those under 20. In Romero's eyes, both events help expand boxing's reach, and that's a win for everyone who loves the sport. He admits that Canelo versus Crawford is the purer fight from a boxing standpoint, but when it comes to sheer U.S. visibility, Paul versus Davis takes the spotlight. Weight champion Shakur Stevenson didn't mince words when it came to the growing hype around Tank Davis boxing Jake Paul. He called Davis's decision to entertain an exhibition a slap in the face to the sport, insisting that if Tank really wanted to prove his greatness, he'd take on a true contender, someone like him. Confident he's the best in the division, Stevenson threw down the gauntlet, daring Davis to step up and show the world who the real top dog is.
Who will win in this fight? Jake Paul or Tank Davis? It's a legit question. And I actually want to really hear your thoughts on who do you think is going to win. Because I know what Vegas is saying, but I want to know what you think. You got
Personally, I think Tank too little, bro.
Yo,
I think Tank too little.
I'm so glad you have a brain on your fucking shoulder.
I think Tank too little.
I said, bro.
I think Tank's too little. That's what I'm saying. I have weight classes for a reason.
Davis
That weight classes for a reason.
5'5", 135 pounds. Jake Paul is 6 feet, 205 pounds.
That's what I'm saying.
Dog.
He's too
6'1",
little.
205. Everybody's like, yeah, bro, but Tank it only takes one good punch. Yes, it takes one good punch when you're about the same size. There's a 60, 70-pound difference in weight in these people. I don't think nobody puts the physics in mind. Jake Paul gets punched in the face by dudes 200 pounds with all their might on a weekly basis. A 135-pound puncher, bro. If y'all remember the Mayweather versus Conor McGregor fight, Conor walks around like 180 on the regular. He's like 5'9", 180. Mayweather's like 5'7", 145. That 30-pound, 20, 30-pound difference, bro, if you remember that fight, Mayweather was putting mittens on Conor. Guess what happened to Conor? He didn't hit the ground once.
No.
He lasted all 12 rounds getting hit with flurries. I'm talking about Mayweather was having his time. He's being cocky with it, hitting him with all kind of combos. And we're watching the last 3 rounds of that shit like, yo, knock him out. And you know what? he could not knock him out because Conor gets punched by people that are 170, 180 pounds on a regular. And just that 20, 30 pound difference, it was like impossible for him to do anything. And that's exactly.
Former heavyweight contender Eddie Chambers sent a clear warning to Jake Paul before his showdown with Gervonta Davis, reminding him that nothing in his past fights could have prepared him for what's ahead. Chambers explained that Davis is a rare mix of speed, raw power, and razor-sharp ring IQ, the kind of fighter Paul has never truly faced. He pointed out that most of Paul's wins came against older or inexperienced opponents, while Davis is cut from an entirely different cloth. In Chambers' eyes, Paul will have to rise to a whole new level, or risk being completely exposed once Tank's skill and fight intelligence take over under pressure.
Tank, what do you think about the rumors of Tank and Jake fight?
Man, Tank disrespectful to the sport if he choose that over fighting with me. I'm the best fighter in the sport. I've been telling him that. He called cap on it. So if he won't call cap and say I'm not who I say I am.
The upcoming clash between Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis has drawn heavy fire from critics who see it as more spectacle than sport. Many argue the fight is driven by money and viral buzz rather than real competition. To them, it's a flashy, greedy sideshow, a cartoon version of boxing where tradition, skill, and legacy are traded for clicks and quick cash. They believe this trend signals a sad step back from the sport's proud history, stripping away the depth and dignity that once made boxing the sweet science.
This can happen, but this is social media. This is what it's created. There's a lane that Jake Paul has created. Honestly, I'm not mad at him for it. He's gotten a lot of fighters and, you know, actual fighters some shine. It also has done for women's boxing a lot. So I'm not mad at him for what he's been in boxing, what he's created. This is a little crazy right here. This is a little crazy. And a lot of people will say, Tank is too small. Let me tell you something. Anybody that gets in the ring with Tank that is not a damn dinosaur is going to feel something from it. And it ain't going to be easy to hit it. Got boxing IQ. He may not sound like an intellectual guy when you hear him talk, but he knows the ring inside and out. So there's nothing that Jake Paul can do aside from make it extremely ugly by grabbing him and probably trying to throw him to the ground. I don't know what else, bite him. I don't know, but I mean, the skill level alone. Now, of course, there is a size difference, a height difference, and all that, but he's just going to struggle so much landing a shot. You know, it's just going to look bad. To me, this is the way I see it. It's going to look bad. Tank is going to be too fast. And the punch, I believe, I'm not saying it's going to knock him out or, you know.
Promoter Eddie Hearn offered one of the sharpest takedowns of the Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis event, warning, it blurs the line between real sport and pure entertainment. Hearn argued that when boxing becomes more about spectacle than competition, it loses the very soul that defines it. To him, this fight isn't a true sporting contest. It's a business move built for clicks, hype, and pay-per-view sales, not athletic greatness. Hearn cautioned that normalizing these kinds of events risks damaging boxing's credibility, as fans begin craving drama over discipline, showmanship over skill. The Paul Davis matchup has since become a lightning rod for debate. Critics call it a glaring mismatch. Paul fights near 200 pounds while Davis competes at 135, sparking accusations of weight bullying and unfair play. Many see the fight as more spectacle than substance, comparing it to wrestling theatrics rather than elite boxing. Yet there's another perspective too, one that praises Davis for chasing the financial payoff, openly admitting he's not out to please purists, but to cash in on one of the sport's biggest money grabs.
I'm not a fan of this matchup at all. You got Gervonta Davis, who's been eating county jail spreads for the last month and a half, and he didn't look good in his last fight against Roach, where he had a draw, but most people felt like he got his ass tapped, so he needs the money. Then you got Jake Paul, who gets to beat on a nigga a whole foot shorter than him and 100 pounds lighter than him. And I think this is just nasty work. This screams money grab. And then you know what? The fans lose in the end on this one. Netflix wins, Jake Paul wins, and Tank wins. We lose.
So what do you think? Does this clash between Davis and Paul breathe new life into boxing? Or does it push the sport further down the road of spectacle over substance? Share your take in the comments below.